And number 10, which is dirty thunderstorms. Okay, these things aren't called dirty because they're a bit rude. Now, this thing might look like a portal to hell, but it's actually formed when electrical charges are generated inside a volcanic plume. Rock, ash and ice particles collide and build up static electricity. And if enough static electricity builds up, it comes crashing down and you end up with pictures like the one behind me. Pretty mental. Lightning and volcanoes are a great way to start off this video, but now it's time for our number 9, which is the Christmas Island crabs. Once a day, every year, something very special happens on Christmas Island in the Indian Ocean. No, I'm not talking about Christmas, I'm talking about the red crab migration. Every single year, about 43 million of these migrate across the island to lay their eggs in the ocean. Now, this was all very well and good until humans came along and built their homes and roads in the way, and now they've had to build special crab bridges for all the crabs to walk over. Why did the Christmas Island crab cross the road? To lay its eggs for the next generation. Yeah, I think that only really works with chickens. So let's move on to our number 8, guys, which is ice fumaroles. Now, although these might look like some kind of ice chimneys, they are actually totally natural. They form in Antarctica from volcanoes beneath the ice and snow. The heat from them rises and melts the snow to form a cave, and when the steam continues to rise, it freezes to form these icy towers with steam coming out of them. They can actually reach up to 60 feet in height. Pretty crazy stuff, but we've got a lot more ahead. Number 7 now, guys, which is the sailing stones. This is an amazing phenomena where stones seem to move by themselves across the floor in places like Death Valley. For hundreds of years, nobody could figure out how these things seem to move by themselves year after year with no evidence of human or animal intervention. Well, after 7 years of research by a team of scientists, it was concluded that under certain weather conditions, enough water and ice can form to float rocks across muddy valleys in a light breeze, leaving the mysterious trails behind them. 7 years they tracked rocks moving across the mud. That's why I love science, doing the job that no one else wants to. From 7 years now to our number 6, we're talking about the reflective salt flats. In southwest Bolivia lies a 4,000 square mile area of salt flats. Now, salt flats are formed when water pools evaporate and leave behind all their salt. This one though is particularly special because when it rains, the miles and miles of salt and water form an incredible mirror that is so big and reflective that governments use it to calibrate their satellites. It literally forms a perfect mirror of the sky and is way more reflective than any ocean. Next time you tell someone to go and take a long hard look in the mirror, tell them to do it in this one. Anyway guys, let's move on to our number 5, which is bioluminescent waves. Okay, this thing is mental. It looks like something made in Photoshop, but I promise you guys, this is totally natural. So what makes these waves glow like this? The answer is tiny microscopic organisms known as phytoplankton. These things are bioluminescent, which means they make their own light by turning chemical energy into light energy. Sometimes these little fellas get caught in ocean currents, brought to the surface and pushed onto beaches, and when that happens, the results can be spectacular. So we're at number 4 already, and I want to show you guys something amazing called columnar basalt. It might sound like a weird sciencey name, but it's actually a really cool phenomena caused by volcanic activity. The most famous example of this is probably the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, and just look at those perfect looking pillars of rock. It looks like humans made them, but they were actually created by molten basalt intruding through chalk beds millions of years ago. Now, personally guys, I prefer the ancient Celtic myth about how these things were formed. Apparently the Giant's Causeway is all that remains of an ancient bridge built by 2 giants who wanted to fight each other. But we're at number 3 now, and it's time to get all creepy crawly with the spider web blanket. If you thought the thousands of spiders swarming over you only belonged in your nightmares or Harry Potter, then I'm afraid to tell you it's actually a natural phenomena. Back in 2012, the Australian town of Wagga Wagga was flooded, which forced thousands and thousands of spiders up into plants and trees, where they ended up forming huge webs together that completely blanketed some parts of the town. They stayed on these giant platforms until the water subsided and they could all just return to their home. So next time there's a flood near your house, guys, don't worry about the water, you should be worrying about the spiders. But now it's time to move on to our number 2, which is the flowering desert. This event takes place place in the Atacama Desert in Chile. It's a very dry place and receives less than 12 millimeters of rain a year, but every 4 or 5 years it gets a higher than average amount of rain, and suddenly the barren wasteland is transformed into a blooming miracle of nature. Countless seeds that lay dormant beneath the surface for all those years suddenly got the rain they needed to burst into life. Over 200 species of flowers appear, which in turn bring lizards, reptiles, birds and animals. Soon though, everything returns to normal with no sign of life until the next heavy rain. I guess that goes to show all good things come to an end. Just like this video, guys. Let's do a quick recap. We've looked at floods of spiders, we've even looked at rocks that move by themselves, but now it's time for our number one, which is the Aurora Borealis. Otherwise known as the polar lights, the Aurora Borealis is a fantastic lights display that only occurs in the polar regions of Earth, but can sometimes be seen in more populated areas. They are caused when electrically charged particles from solar wind accelerate along the Earth's magnetic field and collide with gas atoms, causing this spectacular spectacle of light. If you're from Scandinavia, northern Canada, or even Scotland, you might be able to see this, so go out and look and check it out if you can and tell me about it, because I'm jealous.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot today, we have the Yellowstone National Park supervolcano. Yellowstone National Park is located in the western United States and is a beautiful park with lakes and canyons and mountain ranges. While the word supervolcano sounds very cool, it is actually a pretty terrifying concept, and Yellowstone National Park sits right on top of one. If this volcano wasn't currently active, it would be no big deal, but that is not the case here. The last time the volcano erupted was 630,000 years ago, which I know is a very long time, but the scientists who study volcanoes have discovered that this supervolcano erupts every 600 to 700,000 years. This means that it really could just decide to erupt any day from today to long after we're all dead. I sure am hoping for the latter. The eruption of this volcano could end human civilization, so let's hope that it can hold out to that 700,000 year mark so we don't have anything to worry about. Moving on to number 9, we have the Helena Slump. This unstable slope is located just south of Hawaii's biggest island, and every so often it creates a landslide that is the cause of tsunamis. There is evidence that around 120,000 years ago there was a really large landslide on the slope that caused a tsunami over 400 meters high. The most recent tsunami caused by the slump was in 1975, and it managed to reach all the way to California. The slump could potentially drop 12,000 cubic meters of rock into the Pacific Ocean, which would create a mega tsunami that would travel through the Pacific Ocean and even reach the western seaboard in just a few hours. This would totally ruin any coastal communities. While scientists are pretty sure we have a while until there's a landslide on the slope so big that it generates a mega tsunami, the Earth is always changing, and all it would take would be a strong jolt from an earthquake, so we never really know. Moving on down to number 8, we have heat waves. While I enjoy a nice hot summer day, there certainly is a limit. Because of climate change, we are facing changes in temperatures that could be detrimental. Heat waves are becoming increasingly more common, and if greenhouse gas emissions aren't significantly decreased, we'll keep seeing these temperature changes. There are many threats that extreme heat poses, but it is also one of the leading causes of weather-related deaths. Some other threats include wildfires, threats to agriculture and livestock, and it can even lower the ability of power transmission lines, which could potentially lead to unreliable electricity. Even just a few degrees is cause for concern, so maybe it is time we change our ways and get the big corporations who are responsible for the majority of our emissions on board to drive us towards a brighter and cooler future. Headed on to our number 7 spot, we have another supervolcano, but this time we're headed into Lake Toba in Indonesia. The last time this supervolcano erupted was roughly 74,000 years ago, but it is said that the eruption was so devastating it almost wiped out humans entirely. To think that we could not be here watching this video right now is crazy. The reason that the volcano eruption was so devastating is because it is believed that after it erupted, it sent the world into an ice age, cooling some regions as much as 15 degrees Celsius. I would have thought the aftermath of a volcano would do the opposite, but I am very obviously not a scientist. While people who are actually scientists believe that we still have a while until a large eruption, the volcano's magma chamber is still very active. Continuing on, in our number 6 spot, we have a potential phosphorus shortage. This is something I never thought I'd ever have to think about, but Alas. For hundreds of years there has been a worry of not being able to feed Earth's ever-growing population, and near the turn of the 20th century, this really came to a head because of the lack of nitrates and ammonia available. Luckily, the German chemists Fritz Haber and Karl Bosch were able to come up with a process that takes gas from the air and turns it into fertilizer. Problem solved, right? Well, yes, until we began to realize our shortage of phosphorus. Our bodies need phosphorus for things like moving around energy and to build DNA and cells. While we aren't going to run out of phosphorus tomorrow, we are about 30 to 40 years away, but the push for biofuel could push us even closer to the edge. This is really stressful because biofuel is so important and we need to start using it more, but then it will create this phosphorus problem. Hopefully our scientists will be able to find a solution for both of these problems and save us. At our halfway point, coming in at number 5, we have the thermohaline circulation and its potential shutdown. There are a lot of these cool built-in systems that Earth has that we don't even realize are happening around us, or at least I don't. Some of these systems, if altered, could create climate changes for centuries. Scientists have been warning us about climate change for years, and this is just one of the many reasons why. If the Arctic ice melts too quickly and the new freshwater spreads across the North Atlantic Ocean, it will shut down a looping global current that is vital to the Earth's climate called thermohaline circulation, or THC. Not that kind of THC. The THC is run off a mix of heat and density, and the circulation of it helps transport heat around the world. As an example, Atlantic surface waters warm up near Florida and then flow northeast towards Europe. This is part of the reason why London has a fairly mild climate, even though it's on the same latitude as the very cold Calgary, which is in Alberta, Canada, and also Kiev in the Ukraine. If the THC shut down, it could cause a sort of mini ice age. The THC has shut down before, so it is possible that if it did shut down, it would eventually be up and running again, but the worst case scenario is that a mini ice age combined with our already changing climate could be detrimental to the human race. Moving on to number 4, we have the potential of an asteroid hitting Earth. We all know, or at least have heard, that the dinosaurs were wiped out by an asteroid. If an asteroid were to hit Earth now, there is a good chance it would have a similar effect, but this time on humans. There have been dozens of asteroids that have nearly missed Earth, and a lot of them have been known and had their paths calculated beforehand to ensure our safety. But there also have been a lot of near misses that weren't seen until right before, or sometimes even after the asteroid had already passed. There have been 5 near misses in 2020 alone. In 2028, there's an asteroid called 1997 XF11 that will come extremely close to hitting Earth, but as of right now, scientists believe that it will miss the planet. If this asteroid were to hit Earth, it would be a mile-wide asteroid hitting Earth at about 30,000 miles per hour, which is similar to a 1 million megaton bomb, which would most likely wipe out most of all the life on Earth. So let's hope that doesn't happen, or Elon Musk can send us to Mars by 2028. Heading to our number 3 spot, we have a potential earthquake. Back in 2014, there was an earthquake in Chile that had a magnitude of 8.2. The earthquake was caused by the meeting of 2 of Earth's continental plates, the Pacific Plate and the Nazca Plate. But scientists believe that this earthquake could have been the start of something bigger. The previous earthquake was called a megathrust, and it was pretty bad. It triggered landslides, cut power, and created a tsunami, but it is believed that this earthquake only released 1/3 of the built-up tension between the plates. That could mean that an even larger, more deadly earthquake could be headed for the same area, and it is expected to happen sometime soon. Headed down to number 2, we have the potential for solar storms and a solar flare. The sun is the center of our universe and is one of the most important things for human life. The sun goes through its own phases and has increases and decreases in activity. When the sun is very active, it can cause a solar flare. A powerful flare can be accompanied by coronal mass ejection, which is a billion-ton cloud of magnetized plasma. While this sort of process happens sometimes, it is usually okay for us and we would never even know know, but there is a possibility for it to be so huge that it really impacts us. What this could mean for us is that the electromagnetic pulses that are generated by it could cause terrible damage or even knock out most of our electronics. One of the worst times this happened in our recent history was in 1921, and it ended up knocking out the US telegraph service. But with how much technology we have today, if something similar were to happen, it could knock out many satellite systems, which would ruin all global communications, the internet, and even GPS. It would be absolute chaos if that happened. While we never really know what is going to happen, it is said that there is only a 12% chance of this happening in the next decade. I would prefer a 0% chance, but I guess 12 will have to do. And in our number 1 spot today, we have what is known as the big one. At the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, just off the west coast of North America, there is a subduction zone. A subduction zone is an area where two tectonic plates have collided and one begins to slide underneath the other, curving down into the mantle, which is the hot layer underneath the crust of the Earth. At this specific subduction zone, the Pacific Ocean floor is being pushed under North America. It is actually moving 40 millimeters a year, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that's kind of crazy. What's not so good about this though is that the upper part, or the North American part, is actually stuck and is being compressed, and at some point it is going to need to release all that built up pressure. This is where the big one comes in. The release of the pressure is going to be an earthquake, but it's going to be huge, with a potential magnitude of 9. This could potentially cause the coastal region to sink up to 2 meters and move horizontally up to 30 meters. After the shaking of the earthquake is over, it will be time for the tsunami. I'm not sure if you guys remember the 2011 earthquake that caused a tsunami in Japan, but they are saying that this one could be even bigger than that. And that is not to make the 2011 tsunami seem small, because it was absolutely catastrophic. Around 7 million people will be affected if this happens, from Vancouver to Seattle, Tacoma, and Portland.
Number 10. Black holes, incredibly scary, incredibly dark. And although that clip may not seem that scary, black holes are indeed terrifying considering what little we truly know about them. Not to mention, researchers believe there are roughly about 10 million of them in our solar system. I know our solar system is huge, but researching this, I didn't know there was 10 million of them coming for us. This is actual footage from the Hubble telescope in 2015. Black holes suck anything and everything in with their gravitational pull and emit enormous amounts of energy. No one even knows what's inside of one because, well, no one has been able to be sucked in one and come back to Earth and tell us all about it. So before we get into number 9, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video. It really helps us out. And head over to my Instagram at Atlanta Productions, because as soon as I get a hold of PlayStation 5s, I'm going to be doing giveaways. I'm going to try to get my hands on 5 of them, so make sure to go follow me at Atlanta Productions. And look for this contest picture and just tell me what games would you guys play. Alright, moving right along, number 9.
But you'd feel their effect if they were to hit the planet.
Okay, what is that?
Gamma ray bursts, or GRBs, are the most violent explosions in the universe.
So these things can happen when two neutron stars collide or when a black hole swallows one of the stars, but however it happens, life on Earth would not be able to survive gamma rays. Even just 1 second of these rays could do enough damage to wipe out the Earth. But luckily they're said to only happen in like once in every 10 million years. So the only question is, did one happen over 10 million years ago? Because are we due? Are we due for one? I don't think so. I'm hoping not. Next up, number 8.
The 1918 flu killed 675,000 Americans. 50 to 100 million people died worldwide.
Of course we have to throw this one on here. Well, pandemics are a serious way to wipe out the Earth. I mean, I feel like the Earth is being wiped out right now. A lot of us had a history lesson this year from the 1919 Spanish flu, and it's so crazy that 100 years later, it's happening again. And I'm not even sure if the Spanish flu shut down down the entire world like how the world is being shut down today. I mean, when we're like 50 years from now, this is gonna be in our grandkids' history books. Absolutely insane that we're around for this. I mean, we were there for the 2008 recession. We're there for COVID-19. This is like a really hard lifetime, especially if you're from the 90s. We're going through a lot. And although most pandemics are said to be natural disasters, one thing this year has made us question is if this was a man-made pandemic. Is someone out there trying to control the population? Is biological warfare a real thing? I'll move right along in at number 7. Okay, what you just saw is a clip from a tsunami in Japan. This really happened. Tsunamis aren't anything new, but with climate change becoming more and more devastating to our home on Earth, if sea levels continue to rise because of ice melting globally, we can see a lot of our world underwater. It would definitely wipe out humanity and the entire Earth would become a modern day Atlantis. And I don't know about you guys, but I can't hold my breath for that long. Like after like 10 seconds, I'm tapping out. Number 6. Okay, you guessed it. It's an asteroid. I mean, not too crazy to think this could wipe out Earth, since it's been said to have been done before. You guys know about the dinosaurs, the dinos? Yeah, they were wiped out by an asteroid.
They now can't see what's headed their way, but they can feel it.
Number 5.
Right now, in the United States, one of the world's largest volcanoes is gearing up to explode. It's known as the Yellowstone volcano. And it's not just any regular volcano. Nope.
Okay, we all know that the Earth has many volcanoes, but there are some massive mountains that are ready to explode, and if they do, all of humanity would wipe out from the devastation. It may not be by melting everyone, but it would cause serious effects on our food crops, and it would block out the sun for several years. Is this real life right now? That would be an alternate reality. And moving along in at number 4, solar flares in today's world would seriously affect humans if one occurred again that was big enough. The last solar flare in 1859 ended up interfering with small-scale electronics. I mean, in today's society, we rely heavily on electronics for access. Think money to buy food, cars, news, media. I mean, we use it for communications. We use it right now to watch me. We could potentially be taken back hundreds of years to the dark ages and no way to Google ourselves out of it. I mean, a world without Google. I remember a few years without Google. Okay, no, I was too young, but I just can't imagine. Every single day, I'm like asking questions to Google that I need answers to. Tonight, I'm going home and I'm gonna ask Google what happens if there is no Google. Coming at number 3. Okay, so this one isn't exactly a natural disaster, but I had to put it on this list because it is very, very possible. Nuclear war. Considering countries having nuclear weapons, this is a pretty scary reality. A full-scale nuclear war would kill hundreds of millions of people directly, and the aftermath would do irreparable damages to the Earth. Nuclear winter is when the soot from the blast covers the Earth and effectively freezes it over. But these are all theories, and I don't want to personally live through one to find out what would really happen. Number 2, the sun. Well, this one looks happy and cute. I mean, it's depicted as a little baby here. Can anyone guess what show this is from? Leave your guesses in the comment section below. But in all seriousness, the sun is not a baby. In fact, it's really old. It's hella old. And an expanding sun would be the most disastrous way for humanity to end. We don't want Mr. Sun to get any bigger.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to roast.
The idea of an expanding sun is that it grows bigger as time passes on. The sun getting bigger means it would be in closer proximity to Earth, which would scorch us. I mean, you guys remember this scene from the Terminator? Alright, in at number 1, take a look at this clip. Overpopulation is a very real natural disaster that we're kind of living through right now. It is estimated that the Earth will be home to 10 billion people by 2050. We will still be alive. I mean, 2050, that's only about 30 years from now. The problem and why it all puts all of humanity at risk is because the Earth isn't getting any bigger and we're using up resources faster than ever before. If we can't feed our population or house our population, I mean, we're gonna be in pretty big trouble. Especially if one of these pandemics happen again, human beings can sometimes be the real virus.
Humans identify the closest with the virus. We expand non-stop and we have no stable means of not destroying ourselves without expanding to a new planet. It is not a question of what we do, it's a question of what we are.